The Social Development Department has called on South Africans and organizations, particularly those involved in the fight against gender-based violence, to comment on a draft bill, the Victim Support Services Bill, which seeks to put the survivor at the center of the criminal justice system in order to ensure that the rights applicable to the perpetrator are also the rights entitled to the victim. But some advocacy groups, including the National Shelter Movement of South Africa, say the bill will overburden already stressed women's shelter services. Joining me now to talk about this is the National Shelter Movement of South Africa's Rose Bailey. Rose, good evening, and thank you very much for joining us on the Newsfeed late night. So, one of the requirements that come then with registering as a service provider here is that you have to undergo some level of certification to prove your capacity, right, to be able to take care of victims and give them the support, or else you face criminal charges in the absence of such a certification. Why are you saying that is a burden?
Good evening, and to us really as the National Shelter Movement, that we're really not looking forward to that one, because some of us has been in the business for more than 20 years, and I think we are well equipped to do what we're supposed to do. But within the bill itself, they are not very specific yet as to what will be the requirements. So that will come out with the regulations. So we are a bit anxious. The main problem for us currently is the fact that we have to register. In fact, any person who deals with a victim of gender-based violence as well as violent crime will have to register with the Department of Social Development. And for us, that we're going to sit with a lot of red tape when it comes to instead of delivering services to our victims that need the services so much.
Now, the abuse shelters, I mean, they form an integral part of the response in as far as gender-based violence is concerned, and therefore it's such a huge and high responsibility that is placed on those shelters in terms of, one, the hygiene standards, for example, that need to be adhered to, the safety standards of the buildings that need to be adhered to. But more importantly, I mean, we've been hearing scary stories of security being compromised in the shelters, where victims end up being victims again, because of the lack of security. So one would think it would be very important that those who are participating in victim support services adhere to those conditions. Wouldn't you say so?
I wholeheartedly agree. But you see, in terms of this new bill, once it goes into act, then we have one here to get our house in order per se. And currently we are struggling with getting funding from government without these restrictions now. So if there's a lot of regulations that we're going to be monitored by, where's this money going to come from? The government is not explaining to us how are they going to provide us the money with for security, for all these hygiene, everything that they want to put in place in terms of monitoring. So I don't understand why they can't be open and tell us that this is going to be the process. The bill is going to be costed, and it's going to not be like the Domestic Violence Act. Currently that only certain parts of the acts are adhered to, and the other parts which now where there's a lack of funding, nothing happens. Yeah.
The other concern is that you're saying there is now a broad definition of what a service provider is. What are the implications of that?
Marvelous part, because according to the Victim Services Bill, it can be a person that stays next to you, and if you are a victim of domestic violence and that person provides you with a room for the night, then that person must be registered with the Department of Social Development, because they are delivering a service. What they're saying that even if you deliver a service in terms of religious counseling, that person must now also be registered with the Department of Social Development.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I understand you very well, you're saying there needs to be a funding model that is attached to this bill. In other words, that clearly tells you how much you're going to get from government, at least to help you to be compliant with some of those regulations. Is there some kind of a partnership that is happening between yourself and government where you're actually able to cost how much it is to run a shelter and pass the kind of information to government?
And that is where we as the National Shelter Movement are currently very unhappy, because research was actually done in the whole of South Africa with all the shelters in South Africa, and it was found that there's a whole lot of discrepancies when it comes to funding. So the answer is, currently we don't have a funding model in South Africa. You get a shelter in Cape Town that is funded 73 Rand per person per day. Then you get a shelter in the Eastern Cape that is funded for 9 Rand a person per day. So we really need to get to a platform where government takes us by the hand and lets us discuss this funding model, so that this is a very excellent idea when it comes to diverse services for victims of crime and gender-based violence. But we really need to make this work. And to make this work, we're going to need money.
You will be then submitting your comments to this bill. What other action are you going to take?
No, we already have drafted our submission as the National Shelter Movement. We're not going to go individually, but we're going to give this through to government, and hopefully they will call us to the table so that we can have a discussion around this. Because for us, it's not a matter of us versus them. Because if we really want to put the victim in the center again, we need to take hands, all stakeholders that deliver services to victims of gender-based violence and crime.
Rose Bailey, I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us tonight from the National Shelter Movement, South Africa. She's a social worker there. Now,